Welcome to Intel Studios Veterans Matter live stream broadcast, the first live stream broadcast for veterans in the tri-state New Jersey, Delaware, and Pennsylvania areas. And now, your host, Veterans Advocate, Mike Merlino.
Today's broadcast will assist or enlighten you, and at the very least let you know that there is help for you if needed. If you want friends to participate in our broadcast, they need to go to our website, Veterans Matter NJ, that's veteransmatternj.com altogether. Click on the Our Show circle, then click on subscribe. You can also go directly to YouTube, hit the search button, type in Intel Studios live stream, and then scroll down the options until you see Veterans Matter. Our phone lines are available throughout the broadcast, and let our audience know when we begin taking calls. The phone number is 609-798-4475. Please be patient as the calls are answered in the order they appear. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce a newcomer to our studio. About 4 to 5 weeks ago, her husband was in the studio. It's not all the time that we have a husband and wife team that both serves in our military, but Barbara Hagemann had been in the United States Army, and I'd like to welcome Barbara to Veterans Matter. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Mike.
You know, I got your bio in front of me. I'm pretty impressed. But what I would like to do, when we have someone in the studio who has served and it's their first time, I want to take you back all the way, let's say high school. And you're deciding what to do with your life. Was it in high school that you decided to make the military your next venture?
No, actually, it was in 4th grade.
Wow.
I said I would. I happened to run into a teacher, and for many years later, she remembered me. Apparently, I didn't change my looks. And she asked me, do you remember you said you were going to join the Army and become a nurse? Well, I joined the Army, but I didn't become a nurse. My daughter became the nurse. So,
what year were you first in? Did you join up?
I joined up in 1985. Yeah, 85. I graduated in 1981. Putzed around a little bit. Went to drafting school. Did a few jobs there. Just decided I kept getting pulled to the military. So I finally went down, talked to them, and came back and said, I'm leaving in October. And so, yeah, it was 1985.
Okay, just to give our audience some, before we get into your time in the military, how long did you serve?
Actually, I was just shy of 8 years. I kind of got the budget cut, and, they didn't count my reserve time on some of it. So my DD 214 says just shy of 6 years, but I did do the rest. And since it was reservist, I wasn't fighting them to put it on.
But it's interesting. You joined up during President Ronald Reagan's administration. I did. And then you ended in President Clinton's administration, correct?
That was also another deciding factor, to believe it or not. I didn't want to serve under that man.
Well, it's interesting because I started this Veterans Matter as a radio show, and my co-host at the time was a United States Marine Corps veteran, Commander Bill Butler, and he actually served his military time under President Carter, and he says it was just the morale was so low under his presidency. And then I can't even imagine what it must have been like under President Reagan. It just had to be,
It was awesome. I cannot say my whole experience through boot camp, everything was great under Reagan. I mean, I can't ask for a better president to be other than, well, who I think now. But couldn't ask for a better present to go in at.
Now you served, and your first assignment was in Germany as an illustrator.
Correct.
Well, what does an illustrator do in the Army?
Many things, but mostly you do the graphs. You present. In my case, I did a lot of when the colonels or the generals had to do a briefing. I did up the briefings. Just case in point, in Saudi, I had to do an escape route for some of the roads and get them. That's pretty much what I did.
Now, you later went to Saudi Arabia and Kuwait during Operation Desert Shield / Desert Storm.
Correct.
And were you doing the same job then?
Yes, I did some whatever work they needed me to do for their presentations. As I said, an escape route. So that didn't keep me busy enough. So I became, jack of all trades, master at none. So then I started working with NBC, the chemical gears, admin, and driving a truck. I was actually given permission from the Saudi to go ahead and drive.
What must have been so difficult, as I look at your bio, is that when you went away to serve during Operation Desert Shield, Desert Storm, you left a 5-month-old daughter behind. That had to be very difficult for you.
It was, but thank God for my parents, and I had 3 brothers who were all there to take care of her, and I did some illegal stuff. I used to steal the colonel's phone at night so I could call and check up. But it was very difficult. When I came back, she was over a year.
Wow.
Didn't know me. She went to my brother's girlfriend when I got home. But I understood that was going to happen, and it didn't take long. But if you did ask her, hey, where's Mommy? She went to my picture.
Now, you know, it's interesting because back at that time, it was before cell phones and being able to get on the computer and do FaceTime, all that. Today, it's got to be much easier than what you went through. But let me ask you a question. You were already in the military when you had the child.
Yes.
And without getting real personal, do they take breastfeeding a child seriously in the military? Could you have stayed out a little while?
Yes, I could have had the option of doing that. I mean, because in today's society, back then you still had the breast pump, so it would have been easier for me to go ahead and breast pump and then have her, while I was at work, after I could give it to the babysitter. However, in my case, my daughter had some issues. So my daughter was an apnea baby. She would stop breathing on you. So there was no breastfeeding. And in Virginia, you could only be qualified to babysit or take child care for 2 apnea babies. They had to have a special qualification, which case I could not find a babysitter. So my mother, and again, my parents helped out. Getting back to Saudi, at one point, as I said, I snuck the phone. I made a phone call, and I found out my daughter was being rushed to the emergency room. Oh. So, needless to say, I took the phone later again and found out how the baby was, But, so it is an option. It's not an option, It's up to the respective mother of what she feels more comfortable with.
We're going to get into later about the fact that you've continued to serve your fellow vets many years after your own service was over. But this is a perfect example of how families sacrifice so much, as well as the veteran and the active duty person. Your family, they sacrificed a bunch.
They do. They do, and they're often forgotten, which we don't. A lot of people don't realize, you got to remember the families were there while you're away, taking care of your matters or, I
got a quick text here. does the military really care about the child you left behind?
Yes. Though they say they are not issued, you're still a mother, and they still take care of it. I mean, it's changed so much, even compared to when I went in. But when I was in, if you were an unmarried mother and you became pregnant, obviously you became a mother, they would put you out, but not the man who impregnated you. So it's really changed. They do take care of you. However, that being said, you don't get to say, well, I don't want to deploy or I don't want to go to the field because, my kid's got soccer game. There's a family plan put into place in such cases. And you raised your hand and you took an oath and you knew this was going to happen. So they do care. You just have to, like jobs. If your job says to you, hey, I need you to go to Colorado to break this deal, do you say, no, I'm not going because I have a kid? It's the same thing. My opinion.
I've been doing this for, I'm going back to 2009, 2010. And I've always been interested. When I have a woman on the show who served in the military, you hear so much about the harassment and even as bad as sexual assault, things like that. Did you see this? Did you get a grasp of what you were in for when you went in, being that it was quote unquote a man's world?
Yes. How do I describe this? It is a man's world, and I was, as I said, I was in through a lot of the changes during that time. However, I was a little different. My mother raised me. I'm the only girl. I had 3 brothers. She did not raise me to be a girl. She raised me to be a person. So I had no problem telling the guy, just back off, get away. Is there sexual harassment? Absolutely. Have they been neglected? Absolutely. I think they're getting better at it today. More people are more vocal. More people are seeing it. In my day, no. Harassment, no. But there is still harassment even today, even in the organizations.
In the last, we'll say, 6 or 7 years, one of the things that comes to the forefront of speaking about issues such as this is the transgender issue in the military. I've had people in here, veterans who were completely against it. I've never had one here advocate for it, but I've had many just say it didn't matter to them. What mattered was knowing that the person next to you was going to have your back.
Well,
and
that's the main thing to me. I guess it's a matter of uncomfortableness. It's a matter of roommating. When you're in the military and you don't have the rank, you live in the barracks. Well, then you're forced to be roommated with somebody that might not make you comfortable, which is problems. Personally, I don't have an issue. People are people. As long as I know you have my back and I have yours, we're pretty good. That's
I would
the way
have
it should
to
be.
say my big issue with the whole transgender thing is that I believe so many go in the military to get the military to pay for their transitioning from one sex to another. And I have a problem with using the government for that.
I agree. That I do have an issue with, and I agree with you. That's a lot why they're joining. I have a transgender friend who it is a very tough decision. We've spoken candidly because I'm not malicious in wanting to know information. But the same thing was said, and she agreed that you should not be going in there just to get the gender change. However, that being said, I, as a veteran, have issues. They will not give you a breast reduction if you need it because that's considered cosmetic. Now, however, putting breasts on a man with a penis is not cosmetic. I'm a little confused. I don't know if I could say this on the radio, but I
Right.
mean, we're in this world today.
Yeah, there's so much contradiction. A few years ago, I ran for the school board here in Egg Harbor Township, New Jersey. At the time, there was a few transgender students in the school, and it was just unbelievable how many people from outside the schools come in to try to advocate for them and force. I had twin girls that were juniors in high school at that time, and I swore that as long as they were in school, there wouldn't be a guy with a penis in their bathroom or their sports locker room. And they didn't during the time they were there. But since some things got changed, I just don't understand in our world today how we can be so not use common sense. You know, we got men, obvious males competing against women in sports, which is totally ridiculous, especially in sports like track and field and swimming. Well, let's get back, let's get off of this subject.
Well, I can give you
But,
an answer on that one. I agree with you. They should not be in the bathroom. I mean, not in today's world. And again, this is my opinion. And if it offends somebody, I'm very sorry, but I am entitled to my opinion. If you're a transgender, then there should be a transgender. But the way we have pedophiling and child trafficking and all this going on, and it seems to be okay with a lot of people because they're afraid to offend somebody, then have your own bathroom. But I will not let my grandchild go into a bathroom if a male walks in there. Me, I can handle myself and most likely will knock you out. But, you know, to send a little girl into the bathroom, how many guys have their father, they got their daughters, they go out, they have to go to the bathroom. This poor man has to be petrified.
Yeah, it's true, and I'm just surprised because it actually doesn't come down to the people. The majority doesn't always rule,
Right.
and it just seems like the further left things go, the more they're tolerated, and it gets to the point to me where it's just kind of ridiculous. And I always wanted the military to be where it stops. This is the greatest military the world has ever seen, and I hate to see these little things crop up that seem to minimize the effects of what our military is. And you've served in combat, and you've seen the good, you've seen the bad. All during your time overseas in Saudi Arabia and Kuwait, one of the things we neglect to let our public know, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of it, and that is that our military, it's not just about killing people. It's about building nations, helping schools and highways and things, and bringing water to a community that
Absolutely.
In 1991, you joined the Veterans of Foreign Wars. And from there, you've been advocating for many years for your fellow vets. What was it that originally got you involved with the VFW?
I came home, sat around, was doing some things, getting my life back on track for my daughter. As I'm out of the service now. Just so happened down the street from me was a VFW. And I come from a very patriotic family. So I said, let me go see. I went down and I met the commander. I have to say, he was very welcoming. And so I joined and I went to a few meetings and I liked what I saw and what was going on and helping with the veterans. So I got The more I got in, the more I got involved. And as I said, I was blessed that he was welcoming. Can I say that about everything? No, not during that time. I made the statement before, even this organization and other organizations still have somewhat of a harassment. I have a past national commander-in-chief from New Jersey who I worked myself through those chairs to become a state commander. And the man could not say my name. He referred to me as that girl.
And now I see where that picture comes from.
And so, yes, I spun it and I did my job, and I did my job to the best of my ability. So, this too is what you can face when I meant you had harassment in here, that some people in their minds, you can't change their minds. You can move forward, and some people can, and me, I'm like that bull in the china shop sometimes. I just plow through. I'm doing it anyway. And I did.
Obviously, you're from Tom's River Post.
I belong to the Tom's River Post, Tom's River. It's AJ Week 6063. I am actually currently their commander as well.
It may be the biggest veterans VFW in the state.
It's one of them, but
I know Ocean County has the most veterans in any county in the state.
Yes.
And I had a kind of an antagonistic relationship with the VFW going back. I did an event back in 2013 called Vet Rock, and it was to honor our Vietnam veterans with the welcome home they never received.
Correct.
And through no fault of my own, it ended up there was some issues with the District 16 commander of the VFW here, who I guess held sway in the state at the time. The guy, the commander at the time, was from Cape May. I believe his last name was George. He was state commander and actually sided with the District 16 commander in not supporting the event. And it was sad because, the way our Vietnam veterans have been treated, I thought it was kind of ridiculous to not let them have their day. Since then, I've had a very good relationship with the VFW, especially with the more latter commanders. Brian, a great guy. Ken's a great guy.
Yeah, I'll keep him.
And then commander from Belle Plaine, John Hinker, Charlie Callahan, who was at Summers Point. There's a number of them that have done a lot. And I spent 3 years as president of the Legion Riders down here in Summers Point, and had an opportunity to work with quite a few. And Barbara, you were at the top. You were the commander, right, of the state
Correct.
VFW. Did you hold any positions? Like, were you first commander of your post, or were you able to? You were.
I was commander of the post, and then I was district commander. I was pink commander at the post. Then I was district commander. You did it a couple times. And at the convention, I said, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to run. And it was actually, so I put my name in the hat, and I went around the campaign, and came election time, I won.
Is it an election just like, how many people are you running against?
Well, at the time, sometimes you run solo. It's just you. In my case, I ran against past state commander Letty Austin, and we both went out and campaigned. And then come convention, like anything, you have your votes. And
at the convention, do you get an opportunity to stand up and speak what you're...
You can. However, through the course of the year, once you run, you go visit posts, you go visit the districts, that's when you do your campaigning. And, you basically sell yourself and then come down. If they would like to ask you, we we do, if they want us to speak to them, we come in and speak to them. And then, like I said, the voting comes in, and that's how it goes.
Now, what year were you commander?
2019, 2020.
So you and Ken were married at the time, right?
Oh, yes. Ken and I were married in. He was correct the other day, last couple weeks ago. We are 10 years.
Now, Ken also very involved in VFW as post commander. I believe he's quartermaster today. You had a little pet project during your time there. You want to talk what it was about and why you got involved in that?
I did the mental health and suicide awareness. Suicide awareness is my biggest point. I always said, how alone is that poor veteran that took his or her life, not realizing there's somebody out there for them? How alone must they have felt? And that just tugs at me. I don't want anybody, period, killing themselves, but veterans alone, we can understand what they're going through. And just a matter of them feeling that alone, nowhere to go, or felt they had nowhere to go, really bothered me. So that was my project for the suicide awareness and prevention.
And today, are you still active in that regard?
I am. My project still continues today. There is one group called the H Hour. Vince Ruiz and Mary Ruiz, a husband and wife team, who are, again, both veterans. They run it. So they go to posts that ask them to come up, and we ask that each post run a suicide prevention and awareness event. And anybody who hears of anybody having issues, they contact us right away.
We're going to take a little breather, and we've got a song here that is representative of November 11th during the Vietnam War, and we're going to play that for you, and we'll be back in just a moment.
On November 8, 1965, the 173rd Airborne Brigade on Operation Hump, War Zone D in Vietnam, were ambushed by over 1,200 VC. 48 American soldiers lost their lives. Severely wounded and risking his own life, Lawrence Joel, a medic, was the first living black man since the Spanish-American War to receive the United States Medal of Honor for saving so many lives in the midst of battle that day. Our friend Niles Harris, retired 25 years United States Army, the guy who gave Big Kenny his top hat, was one of the wounded who lived. This song is his story. Caught in the action of kill or be killed, greater love hath no man than to lay down his life for his brother.
As he left South Dakota to fight for the red, white, and blue. He was 19 and green with a new M16, just doing what he had to do. He was dropped in the jungle where the choppers would rumble with the smell of napalm in the air. Then the sergeant said, "Look up ahead." Like a dark evil cloud, 1,200 came down on him and 29 more. They fought for their lives, but most of them died in the 173rd Airborne. On the 8th of November, the angels were crying as they carried his brothers away. With the fire raining down and the hell all around, there were few men left standing that day. talks about the shrapnel that left in his leg. He puts on a gray suit over his airborne tattoo, and he ties it on one time a year, and remembers the fallen as he orders a tall one and swallows it down with his tears. On the 8th of November, the angels were crying as they carried his brothers away, with the fire raining down and the hell all around. There were few men left standing that day. Saw the eagle fly through a clear blue sky, 1965, the 8th of November. Saw the eagle fly through a clear blue sky, 1965. On the 8th of November, the angels were crying as they carried his brothers away, with the fire raining down and the hell all around. There were few men left standing that day. On the 8th of November, the angels were crying as they carried his brothers away, with the fire raining down and the hell all around. There were few men left standing that day. Saw the eagle fly through a clear blue sky, 1965, the 8th of November. As he left South Dakota to fight for the red, white, and blue. He was 19 and green with a new M16, just doing what he had to do.
Welcome back to Veterans Matter live stream. I'm here with my guest, Barbara Kim Hagemann, United States Army and Operation Desert Shield, Desert Storm veteran. I just wanted to do a quick shout out to all the people who attended this past Sunday's 22nd annual Ride for the Vet on behalf of the executive board and membership of the American Legion Riders out of Post 352. We want to thank everybody for a very successful event and remind you that every dollar that the Legion Riders receive goes to help our local veterans. There's no payroll, just like all the other veteran service organizations here in New Jersey. Do our part to help our veterans, and we thank you very much for coming out and supporting us. It was a very worthwhile event and had a great time. I also want to shout out, while I have the opportunity, to our 2nd District Congressman, Jeff Van Drew, who came out to the event and brought congressional proclamations for our 3 Quilts of Valor honorees. It's always great to have our politicians. I'm not a party guy when it comes to veterans issues. I really don't care what party you're in, as long as you're supporting veterans. And I caught a little anger this past week because I posted a little personal note on my Facebook page and had nothing at all to do with the American Legion Riders, of which I have been a past president and am now serving on the executive board. But it's just something that we've been preaching about since I've been on public and private radio and now on live stream. And that is that if you're going to be a politician today, you could come out and support your veterans. I don't care whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, but our veterans do care. They do care because you're asking for their vote, and then when it comes to an opportunity to support them, you're not there. And if the only time you support veterans is when you're up for election, that doesn't look great either. And there are those, and I'm going to name a couple because besides our congressional Congressman Jeff Van Drew, we also had a couple of county commissioners who happened to not be running for office but came out. I want to thank Frank Ballas and John Risley for their support. It's always great, and I know our veterans love to see our politicians come out, and we take it seriously. You know, Barb, you've being high up in the state as commander of the VFW and working closely with your home post in Toms River. It's got to be galling sometimes to, not have politicians come out and support veterans. And it doesn't, like I said, no matter where you lean, left or right, it's still nice to see all the politicians supporting veterans, especially in our area where you have a Coast Guard base in Cape May. You got the 177th out here, and you have McGuire, Lakehurst, up in central Jersey. You would think that they would be out. 20% of our total population in this country are veterans. And when you add the families in, it's a big voting block.
Mm-hmm. It is. And Jeff Van Drew is great. He comes to most everything you ask for. He's definitely vet friendly. My opinion, like you say, with vets, it doesn't make a difference what political party you are. A vet is a vet, and they put their lives on the line. They signed that dotted paper. You can at least come out and support them. As you said, not do it when election time comes up.
Shout out to our president, Tom Dixon, for a great job that he did putting together this ride for the vet. The one thing that you don't see happen too often, I don't know what it's like. I know I've been to the Toms River Post where they have the canteen outside during the summer barbecues and parties there. A great place to visit, but we don't often support each other for some reason. I don't know what it is, and I talked to Ken briefly when he was here, and I talked to Brian Weiner, and I've talked to Johnny Hinker, Bob Frollo, different commanders, and even so far as to interacting with the past second congressional Congressman Frank LeBiondo when he was in office. And I'm going back to when we had the problems with the Blue Water Navy. Couldn't get them coverage. And I can remember sitting down with Congressman LeBiondo at a veterans breakfast and asking him, Congressman, how can we not get our Blue Water Navy veterans covered? And he said, Mike, we've passed a bill through the Senate, a bill through the House. It's sitting there. Our national leaders can't prioritize, so it dies in committee. And it's sad because it took until, I guess, the last maybe 4 years that we finally got Blue Water Navy veterans covered. And what is it, Barb? Where's the antagonism between our leaders in American Legion, VFW, the DVA, VVA, and you'd think that they would all come together and find some common ground and prioritize it. Now, I believe it's happening today. Mm-hmm. I believe finally the leadership has coalesced into a much more hospitable Did you find that when you were state commander that they were getting along better?
Well, we tried to get along because, I mean, the ultimate goal is helping veterans. Case in point with the VFW, I get a lot of people say, I need help, but I'm not a member. You don't have to be a member of the VFW. We help. A vet is a vet, straight up. I can't speak of the past because, I wasn't up there and privy to anything discussed. I know some things run different because of bylaws. And there was, I cannot remember the number, as you said it, I'm trying. We voted and we fought for one of the things to be passed, and the American Legion voted it down. But that's their higher up, so I don't know how they run to say yay or nay. I was just upset that they didn't follow through and say yes. You're right. We do need to work more better together. I try to always include, or at least around me and Tom's River, and I know we did with the states, the Legion and all that, because again, we're working for the same goal, to take care of our vets. Bob Luby, he's big with the American Legion, best man to work with the American Legion. He's also a VFW. Him and I and Al Veltri, a past district commander, are going to run Make a Difference Day. I go to Bob Luby online. He can get all that stuff done for me. He's a great man. That man is truly going for vets. And he's an American Legion member. I believe he's a past state Legion.
After speaking to different leaders here on this show, I do agree. I believe things have changed. And you have to be worried to a certain extent, Barbara, with the advent of the issues of burn pits. You served overseas. I'm sure you know exactly what it's like. If we think that we had an issue with Agent Orange and our Vietnam vets, how many hundreds of thousands of men and women served on these bases where there was burn pits? The numbers are going to be astronomical, and after what happened at 9/11 and the issues from there, we just know that it's going to be a problem down the road. And thankfully, there is a registry, and hopefully as these problems creep up, they're handled. Do you see our VA on a national level handling this?
Oh, yeah. They're actually taking claims for the burn pits, the PACT Act, too. Also, don't forget Camp Lejeune. We're going to have a lot of issues with that. I do know for a fact the VFW all the way up is on it hard. We're not going to let the Agent Orange, what happened to those veterans, our Vietnam veterans who suffered Agent Orange through the years, had to really fight. We're not going to allow that to happen. And the Vietnam veterans fought to make sure that it doesn't happen to us. So we're going to continue that fight, and we're going to take it all the way.
Now, I think that the PACT Act, this new legislation that was passed and signed by President Biden, is a great step in the right direction. But there's still issues out there, Barb, that I saw this article. You've probably seen it being in the high up in the VFW, but in February, Congress acted to end forced arbitration for survivors of sexual harassment and sexual assault. And I believe the VFW is in the forefront of trying to make sure our veterans and service members deserve that same choice. Right now, they don't. And I believe the VFW is on the forefront of seeing this thing through. That's just one thing that's happening out there. But you mentioned Camp Lejeune. I think it's so interesting to me. If you stay up or even in the afternoon watch television, you can't help but see the thousands of commercials that are on there, law firms that are going to want to represent our veterans. And one of the things that I wanted to make sure those listening if you or your family lived at Camp Lejeune and you're suffering from any of those illnesses, before you contact an attorney, please go see your VA rep. Get into the let them handle things first. I'm really interested to see down the road. I have a couple of guys in our post that are already classified with the vet and getting benefits for that. I'm interested to see if you get involved with the class action suit and win, whether you're going to have to pay back your VA benefits. To me, the government never allows you to double dip, and you see it
Only that.
with our people on Social Security disability, and then they get workers' comp benefits and you have to pay their Social Security back. So I hope we don't run into these kind of issues. And I think wherever lawyers get involved, it usually just magnifies problems. And if you go and Google PACT Act today, you don't get to go to the VA site until you're way down the list. These lawyers hire great computer people, software people that get their name at the top of the PACT Act list. And you got to go through dozens of lawyer sites before you can come to the VA site. So hopefully our VSOs will take charge of these things and help our veterans. I'm sure you guys already are helping them. You wonder how something like that can happen. Contaminated water. You think. I believe. When you watch movies like the one with Julia Roberts, she played the woman that helped that water problem out in California. It was a true story.
Tip of my tongue, cannot remember it. Erin
Brockovich.
Brockovich.
That movie just shows you how communities of, it could be utilities, it could be government, they just kind of shield the public and don't really care about what the effects are.
Well, for years. I'm sorry.
When you see our veterans are suffering from, some are going through organ transplants because of this. It's pretty sad to see our military, our veterans suffering because of this. I thought Agent Orange was rare. I thought that was and then I find out that there's many things happening around our country. And hopefully the PACT Act is the first step. Of course, it should help people with the burn pits. And I think the only reason the PACT Act happened is because of our VSOs at the top making it a priority and pushing our top politicians, our congressmen and senators, to make this happen.
VFW all the way.
Well, what's it like, Barb, at that level of being a top in the VFW and dealing with Senator Menendez and all of these? Do you find them accommodating or divisive?
Sometimes. You brought up Lo Biondo years ago. He told me I had to leave his office. I was not allowed to come back. So obviously I was doing my job right and fighting for the veterans because I hit a nerve. Our job is when we go down to D.C. or we talk to the assembly, whatever, is to get our point across. I'm not here to make you look good. I'm here for the veteran, as every other representative is here. So do some blow smoke up our behinds? Absolutely. Are some sincere? Yes, they will contact us. What can they do? What do we need to do? So it really, like any politician, it really, you got to look and what they are. But the VFW is resilient, and we fight, and we continue to fight.
we talked about the Vietnam veterans and how they swore that another generation would not go through what they went through, and that certainly is the case. But let me ask you, what makes you do this so many years after your service is over, Barb? What makes you stay in the fight? What is it about? And I see it so often. I haven't served, but I'm around veterans all the time, and it's amazing. Vietnam veterans, 50 to 60 years after their service, are still out there fighting for their brothers and sisters. Now here you are, a good 30-some years later. What is it that drives you?
I was blessed in a lot of sense of I was born into a very patriotic family. Patriotism is taught. It's not something you reach a certain age and boom. I love my country. My grandfather served and I heard what he went through only a little bit. I didn't find out more until he had passed away and I found some personal paperwork that I went through. So here he was, a POW, Battle of the Bulge. My father was a young boy, and they were actually told he was dead. They paid out the life insurance policy and everything. And he happened to get on a bus in Newark, which my great-grandmother was on the bus, and him or her, they were all thinking he's dead. She damn near had heart failure. They had to pay that money back, minus they owed my grandfather a nickel. My grandfather was so mad.
He was a POW, and they made him pay that money back.
They made him pay that money back, and then he paid over a nickel too much, so they sent him a check for a nickel. I'd have that check today. He refused to cash it because he said it'll screw up their accounting system for years. And then, of course, so I heard the issues and my father telling me the stories and how they did such, And here was a man, like I said, came in from Scotland and he decided to fight for a country that he chose to be his home. And then my father served in Korea. My uncles served. My other uncles, well, it's a very patriotic family. My brother served. And then, of course, I served. And when you get out, a lot of my friends' brothers served during Vietnam. I was only a little girl at the time. So I saw how that was affecting families. And quite frankly, the real issue is if we don't do it, who's going to do it? If you don't know what the life is, how are you going to fight for it? It's my country, it's my brothers, it's my sisters. My job, I chose to be my mission, is to continue the fight, to make sure that they're all taken care of, as well as the kids today. There are a lot of them are coming back. You can't see their disabilities. Some of them aren't missing limbs, or you got to take care of them. And quite frankly, my personal belief is that third grader, I'll say a third grader, sitting in the school chair today, is going to see a war. And we need to make this keep going for them. Though I'll be long gone, we need to make sure they're still taken care of as veterans. No man is left behind, ever.
You fast forward to today, our military today. 4 years ago, we were the greatest. We had to scare the rest of the world the way our military was, our foreign policy was. Today, we're kind of like the laughing stocks of the world. And I don't think they laugh at our military so much. But, Barb, there's a lot of problems today. We're not able to fill our quota of military because of where we're at in this country politically. There's so much division. I've never, and I hate to say this, and I don't like to be negative about the commander-in-chief on this show, mainly because that as bad as he can be, he's still the top dog. And I don't like, in the old days, we were doing radio shows to have people calling up and they were bashing Obama and stuff. When you have veterans on the show, if they have something negative to say, that's for them to say. But what's going on today with our military? When you see young people today, they're not really signing up like they were 4 or 5 years ago. They're basically, I don't know what they're looking at, or is it a parental thing? Is it, or are the parents lacking in some way? It's very sad when you see what the numbers are, and you think of the United States, you think of such a strong military, and I wonder if what we're looking at down the road may be a draft again.
Could be. I think they do not teach patriotism in school. I mean, you have the choice whether you stand for the flag or not, because they're too busy worrying about offending people. No kid is now taught patriotism. They don't understand the parades aren't out. I get the times have changed, but we still have to teach them. I don't know what's coming down the road, but I do hope it's better than where we're at today. I mean, we all came together for 9/11. Look at that. And then suddenly, we'll never forget, and look at it now. So.
I'm looking for something. I just can't seem to find it on the menu.
Yeah.
What is it? What's your feelings about bringing recruiters into the schools, the high schools, to talk to men and women that are about ready to make life decisions?
I'm okay with that. Think about it. You can have college reps come in, sports reps come in. How about VOTEC reps? Because not everybody's college bound. You need people who work. VOTEC is just as credible. So why not the military? It's a job. It's a great job. Okay, the pay's not great, but you're not signing up for 20 years unless you choose. Again, I took it and I made an adventure out of it. I made great friends. I just actually signed up a lifetime member for the VFW from Indiana. He was my sergeant in 1986.
Wow.
He called me. He said, I've been following you on Facebook. I'm going to do this because of you, because of your passion for veterans. And he said, I hemmed and hawed. He's a great man, but he's not one that likes to go out. So he said, I'm joining the VFW. And he became a life member.
Barbara, in honor of your service, we're going to play this song for And welcome back to Veterans Matter live stream. I hope you like that little tune.
I did.
We tried to honor our.
Always hits the heart.
I had a text here. What does the PACT Act stand for? Not that that is real important, but I do have that information in front of me. On August 10th of 2022, the Sergeant First Class Heath Robinson honoring, and the PACT Act stands for Promise to Address Comprehensive Toxins Act. And that was signed into law back in August. And today, a lot of what you see happening in the news concerning not just our new military men and women that have come under the post 9/11 GI Bill, but it also covers our Vietnam vets and Agent Orange and some of the presumptive illnesses. I had a guy on our show way back, I guess it was about 2010, and he was not able to get coverage for his illnesses for Agent Orange. They told him that he needed to have a witness to prove he was where he was at. And while we were doing the show, and he gave his military, where he served in Vietnam and the years he served there, and we got a call from our commander of our post at the time. They had served together.
Oh, wow.
And he's originally from South Carolina, so the fact that he was up here in New Jersey on the show, he was able to get coverage. Because now today, supposedly, through the PACT Act, it's a presumptive. You should automatically be covered. But my brother, who served in the Air Force and was at Quang Tri Air Base in Thailand, where they stored the Agent Orange and where the planes were come in, and they would, the stuff would be dripping all over the place. And also, back in those days, this was 66 to 67, he was flying into Saigon weekly, but he can't get coverage. Even to this day, he's having problems, and I've given him names of people in New Jersey. He lives in Glen Olden, PA, and the people here are trying to help him. So hopefully he will make out with it. It's unbelievable what they put these men and women through.
And he did put in a claim with has he put in a claim for any of that?
He originally put in a claim in the 90s and was rejected. He got very discouraged after that. And it took me doing this radio show. In the last couple of years, I put him in touch with the VA outreach specialist, and they're trying to help him now. Dave Louderback, who is a veteran service officer in Cape May County, he asked me to give him his name, and he's going to work with them. It's just ridiculous that you have to go through this. He's now 79 years old, and sometimes to these men that served in Vietnam, they just have the belief that the government wants them to die and go away, And sometimes I believe that also. Well,
as you said, it happened back in the 90s, and once they get turned down, they don't realize there's a fight. And that's the VFW's service officers, the American Legion service officers. That's their job, to fight it. I would suggest he either contact the man you talk to, call Ken's office, let them get a service officer on it. It's never too late. We're still servicing men who served in World War, the ones that some are alive. World War II we did a couple years ago. As I won't swear to this number, I'm trying to remember. The VFW has recovered, their service officers have recovered $6.1 billion. They fight. They know what to do. The guys, I know it's aggravating at times, and I've heard people say, I don't want to do this. It's they aggravate you. That's what they want. Go in and do it. Just go in and do it. Take a day off, and because when you go for your CMP, your exam, it usually constitutes a day. Take it off and fight it, but you got to get that paperwork started. And I hope that's what your brother does, because he should begin, because civilian doctors usually don't know a lot about what people who suffer from illnesses due to Agent Orange residuals. So, but the VA does. Does he currently at least go to a VA hospital?
He does now. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
but it's got to be very discouraging. And
It
the
is.
sad part is the science. We just been through a pandemic where everyone talks about the science, but the science has proven that Agent Orange is now affecting the second and third generation.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, they don't have any coverage, and who knows whether that will ever be. But if you're a Vietnam vet, you're listening to this show, and you have children, when they go to their doctor, they should let their doctor know that their dad or their mom, if it was a later war, maybe served where there's a burn pit, they should let them know so that if there's anything comes up in the future, they would have a jump on it. They would know that it could be from one of these, because cancers are unbelievable. Mm-hmm. Two people could have the same type cancer, but what caused it could change the treatment methods. And it's very important that to stay on top of that.
I can tell you, I do know, as you stated, the residuals passed down to the children with Agent Orange. There have been cases, one, for children who had spina bifida or other children, dependent children, who were born with some defects or problems. You have to, that's in case the person needs to take that to their representative and let them know their child is dealing with issues because of that. So it is out there. And again, sadly, it's a fight, but nobody likes to give up money, so that's why it is a fight.
Yeah, whenever the military, or I should say the VA, decides to do things on a case-by-case basis, and it's always good to have a good in with your congressman, because that's what it takes. You're right, Barb. Barb, before the show today, and I was posting this on Facebook, and I went through the pictures you had on it, and something intrigued me. I saw a picture that said a caption above it that said, "That girl." Who dubbed you that?
It was a past national commander from New Jersey, George Lasicki. He doesn't like me. That's okay. I still get up in the morning. But he refused to say my name. He always say, "That girl, that girl." So I actually took it around and switched it to a positive. And I needed to do that because part of making our organization grow is membership. And the more members we have, the more we're able to fight in Congress to get what we need. If the numbers are low, it's hard. Like anything, you need the numbers. So when you go out and recruit, you don't want to hear negativity of that. You don't want to be that person in that building where somebody's can't even use your name. We're adults. So I just laughed, and actually at the end of my, when I was the state commander, I made sure I had a T-shirt made that said, "I am that girl." So cool. George Lasicki kind of did me a favor on that one.
Just interested, did Ken ever have a face with this guy? I mean, I can't imagine.
No, Ken and I, we're husband and wife, and yes, he does stick up for his wife, but he also knows I can handle myself. And in this case, this is something I needed to handle myself. I don't need to bring my husband in and say, "Please fight my battles," because I'm the veteran, so I can deal with it. He wasn't calling me a nasty name.
Well, obviously you handled it well because you were elected.
I was elected,
commander.
yes, and he actually spoke up against me, and it meant nothing. I still won.
Wow.
So I am that girl.
Because of reaching that level and knowing what's going on around state, do you see some of our younger veterans starting to join veteran service organizations? Our Operation Iraqi Freedom, Operation Enduring Freedom veterans, are they starting to come around and joining the VFW?
They are. We know they're busy, so we know they cannot make all the meetings. I always said if you volunteer 15 minutes, that's 15 minutes. Somebody else doesn't have to do something. We make it family oriented for the kids. I mean, let's face it, kids, people today, husband and wives both work. They work different shifts because babysitting is very costly. So, but they don't always necessarily get to come to a meeting. And as we tell them, you don't, if you can't make the meeting, you can't make the meeting. But I do see them. We're trying to get more and more of them. They're younger. A lot of them used to think, well, I don't drink. Well, we're not about a bar. There's more to it than drinking.
It's so true. A lot of times I've spoken to young. I used to do the radio show right at Stockton College, so we had a great relationship with the student veterans there. And you try to tell them, it's not coming in, drinking, and telling war stories.
Right.
The camaraderie is unbelievable. But when I was at Stockton, there was a very interesting subject brought up. Tom O'Donnell was the dean of students who led the Stockton Veterans Program, actually led it to the point where it became the 6th rated veteran-friendly university in the country.
Oh, wow.
It was great. Someone had come up with an idea, Barb, and I don't know why someone hasn't run with this. When you have these universities, I think Monmouth is another great veteran-friendly, why don't they have a VSO right on campus? You have a VSO, and as soon as they join the veterans organization, they are invited to the VSO. Whether it's VFW, Legion, AMVET, something. Why doesn't someone take it by the horn and do that? That way, when they graduate, leave college, they can transition right into their local VSO.
They can transition indoor. They can be indoor in school. We do have a lot of students, college students, because they went to school. They came home and then decided to go to college. We have had it there. It's trying to get, class-wise, it's hard. You might be the veteran, but you're taking night classes. You're taking morning classes. So you never get a group. We do have information out there with the student veteran organizations to contact us, and we're always willing to help because there are scholarships that they can apply for and all that. So to say we're going to sit there, I mean, it could be a possibility, but that's, even when I went to school, there was never anybody there, but there was never anybody there anyway. We did have a little vet section, and I would go in and get information.
It's different today.
Yeah, a lot of them don't hang out.
They have their own section of the student center, and I think it would be something that could go a long way with getting them, when they leave school, to get into a VFW where they live. That's just an idea. But the post 9/11 GI Bill is just excellent. And I was talking earlier about having recruiters come into the high school. It's one of the problems today is that in the high schools, they're all just pushing college, when not all our students are college material, number one. And number two, it's not the only place to go to make money and to start a career. They don't really get into the military, which is a shame, and they don't push trade school anymore. I don't know up in your area. I know down here we have some great ACIT has wonderful facilities, and then just to get our students to look at what the armed services can do for them. It seems like they shun away from having recruiters come onto the campus.
They do. They have. I can't speak personally. I don't know from what I'm going on what I was told, because I don't have a child in school anymore, not high school. They don't allow it. I don't know if that's the woke generation. I know they had them when I was a kid, and I think it should. Again, you should know what your options are out there. Stop making these kids look on Google, because Google doesn't necessarily give you the whole story anyway.
Right.
Here you got college people who push for college. They're in debt forever, it seems, with their loans. They're not making a lot of money, and yet you got that plumber who just made $65 an hour walking into your house. So let's see, college, promote trade school. As you said, not everybody is equipped. And you come at, and as military, you come out with, a trade.
Well, you
Whether
know,
you
with
want to further on that trade or move it to something a little different,
Right.
you're now trained to do it this way.
What was your MOS when you were?
I was an illustrator in 81
Now-
Echo.
Now, is there a lot of illustrators?
No. No, I don't know. I could have had any engineer job I wanted. I scored high on that. I didn't want that. So when they offered illustration, because I always drew as a kid, I was like, oh, let me do this. So again, I did the job. At that time, we still made slides and, oh God, what do you call them? You know, the little things you used to put, clickers. I guess they're slides, but they're
Yeah.
real small. That's what I did.
Overhead projectors.
Yeah,
those-
yeah.
you're
I
right.
would make those, and then it progressed, and then everything became computerized. So I actually don't even know if it's an MOS in the service anymore, to be honest with you.
Did you utilize it in the civilian world also?
I did go for a job, and I would have I applied for a job as a freelance illustrator to do children's book. And then I decided I had a child, so I figured, what am I going to do? Jobs are hard. There weren't many illustration jobs out there at that time that were steady. And so I went to college, and I became a special ed teacher.
Really? So are you still teaching today?
Nope, I'm done. I'm totally retired. I just do VFW.
What school did you teach in?
I taught in Lakewood. So, yeah, I had some behavioral kids. It was always interesting. Good
Wow.
days, good days.
That's interesting. So, in closing, Barbara, I wanted to ask you, if you were to be invited to a local high school to speak at a commencement exercises, what would you tell our graduating seniors today?
Ooh, there's a lot. First I would congratulate them. Second, I would let them know this is your time, and the stars are still there to reach. Continue to reach, because you never stop learning. My case, I probably promote, join the service, especially if you're in doubt of what you want to do. It's a great experience. I'm getting a brain, because my brain goes 20 minutes over what I'm saying last time. You're structured, so wish them well. But I continue to love your country and learn. Continue to learn, because if you don't, our country's going downhill anyway. It's my personal opinion. I know you know politics, but we keep playing with this offended. I'm offended, and the woke, and you hurt my feelings. Where are we today?
Right.
So
Agree with you 100%. And
don't do that. Think for yourself. Don't be a sheep. And I mean that in the sense of whoever you follow, whichever party, just don't be a sheep.
And I believe, Barb, that this November is fundamentally the most important election this country has seen in my generation.
I agree. I agree. I think that's going to, there's a lot that could come out of it depending on which way it's going to go.
So I'll give you the last words. Anything else you would like to tell our listeners? I want to thank you very much for taking the time out on a Saturday afternoon to join us here.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Just to all our veterans, thank you. Thank you for your service. We have Veterans Day coming up, so to my brothers and sisters, thank you. Happy Veterans Day. And if you need anything, please don't hesitate to call the VFW headquarters in Trenton. I can give you the number. It's 609-393-1928. And y'all have a great weekend.
Thank you, Barb. And as we say every week, if you love your freedom, thank a vet.